Hi, welcome to the Sales Strategies for Christian Coaches podcast. I'm Justin Janowski, your host, and I tried to run a coaching business twice and failed. The first time I had one client and I was promptly out of business. The second time I had 3 paying clients and was promptly out of business. I only made it a few months each time. The third time I launched a coaching business, I did over $250,000 in revenue my first year. And we've done millions of dollars since, worked with over 1,000 Christian coaches. The difference for me, along with surrendering to God and trusting Him and His plan for my business and being faithful in my action, was that I learned between the second and the third attempt how to develop a system around sales and marketing that could consistently lead me to clients. That's what this podcast is designed to do, is to help you as a Christian coach or entrepreneur figure out how to build a system around sales and marketing. That includes designing the right offers, learning how to attract clients consistently, and of course, learning how to close deals on sales calls. And today I'm talking about finding truth on sales calls. This is something that I think is really important. And it's something that I was talking with our team about yesterday. Specifically, there's a number of different ways in which we need to bring truth into sales calls. And it can be a gift for us. It can be a gift for our clients. You're certainly going to, if you listen to this podcast before and you've learned our sales process, you pre-frame sales calls. And when we open a sales call with a great pre-frame, we give transparency and truth to the call. We make sure that we're on the same page as our prospects. That's a great way to create truth and transparency on a sales call. By the way, if you don't yet have access to our 10-step sales process, I want to give you that for free. You can go to goodsalespdf.com. goodsalespdf.com. You can get the 10-step sales process. Another way that we create truth on a sales call or find truth on a sales call is in the closing of the sales call, specifically when there's objections, questions, concerns. That's a great place for us to ask powerful questions and help people find truth and help them find the best answer for themselves. I also like truth and transparency in follow-up processes when it's going to take more than one conversation to close a deal. And so these are all topics that I've talked about before. Today, I specifically want to focus on finding truth on your sales calls in discovery and vision, in the heart of the sales call, in the heart of the conversation. And to me, what I recognize is I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of coaches, a lot of people with big goals and big dreams and big visions. And I've been in sales since I was 18 years old. And so I've been in different environments with people where we were regularly setting goals. And I know that sometimes people set goals that are really achievable. Sometimes people set goals that are stretch goals that are really appropriate. They stretch and challenge them to become better than they are right now. And they're totally within the realm of possibility, but they're difficult to achieve. In other cases, people set goals that are way too small for them because they don't yet see what's possible and their vision to date is really small. But in other cases, I've seen this many times, people set goals in almost a fantasy kind of way. They're living in a fantasy reality where they're talking about a goal that just likely isn't possible for them. And I understand why it happens. And one of the things I learned in personal and professional development early on was the idea of setting big, hairy, audacious goals that are so big and so grand that they're going to take a transformation from us to achieve them. And there can be a power in seeing beyond what's possible for us now. And so I don't want to discourage people from that. I love big goals and big dreams. And I remember having a sales call with a client probably a year ago who was not yet a coach. She was in real estate. She wanted to run a coaching business. And she said, I want to have $1 million coaching business in the next 3 months. Can you help me do that? And she was at $0 in sales right now. She didn't have a New York Times best-selling book. She wasn't a celebrity. She didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on ads. She was just a new aspiring solopreneur and wanted to know how to make $1 million in 3 months. And to me, that goal, that vision for her was in fantasy. It wasn't in reality. That's not something that's really attainable for the vast majority of brand new coaches. There might be a rare instance here or there. Like I said, if someone's willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads right out of the gate, or if somebody's already a celebrity, already has a New York Times best-selling book, that might be a person who can build $1 million business in 3 months from scratch. But for most common solopreneurs, it's going to take a lot longer than that to get to that goal. So I kind of like the idea of, okay, cool, I've got this big goal, this big dream. I want to build $1 million business. I believe in that. I love that. And the timeline around that goal is what makes it realistic versus a fantasy type goal. And so what I found is when I'm talking to my ideal prospects and I'm talking about their goals and their dreams and what they want to accomplish, is that sometimes the goals live in a place of possibility, and in other times they live in a place of what feels closer to impossibility. Obviously, there's always room for God to create a miracle, but you can probably instinctually tell when your clients or prospects are talking to you on a call how realistic their goals and their dreams are. And I'm generally of the opinion of just encouraging people towards their goals and dreams. But there are times where I want to check in a little bit further, and I want to provide a greater element of truth to help the person that I'm with. And so I had this conversation with someone on our team yesterday. I had a prospect get on a call with me, and this person had already talked to somebody on our team. And so there was this idea that maybe this was a really exciting opportunity. This is somebody we could work together with at a really high level. And those things are definitely still possible. But I think that in the first sales call, this prospect shared goals and dreams, and they were excited and they were working towards something, and it was big. And so there was this idea that, well, maybe I'm the right coach for them. Maybe I can really help them. You need to get a call with Justin. This is going to be a great opportunity. And then I got on the call with this person, and as they shared their goals, they sounded really big. They sounded a little bit grandiose from where the starting place was. And that's the key to finding truth, is noting the starting place. So recognizing where somebody wants to go and what they're at right now. Understanding the journey that's gotten them here, understanding the patterns of where they've been, to evaluate what's possible, to evaluate the fit of them working with you. And oftentimes, if we can just bring someone truth, that has the capacity to change their life and elevate their plan and elevate their capacity for action and results and set people up for reasonable expectations. And I know that this isn't fun to talk about in like the personal professional development world, because this is a dose of reality that could put a little bit of a dampening on somebody's big dream. And again, I'm not trying to talk that $1 million coaching business out of existence with that example I shared earlier. It's more the recognition of like 3 months going from zero to $1 million for the person I was talking to wasn't likely reality. And could I bring this person to a place of reality so that they could pursue something that would be really exciting and compelling that they could actually achieve? And in this case, I was talking with this person who's building a financial business and wanted to recruit 10 more clients between now and the end of the year, and wanted to do $40,000 in business between now and the end of the year. And that knowledge was shared between myself and the sales rep on our team who had that first conversation. But what was missing in the first conversation that I brought to the second one with this prospect was a dash of reality through bold questions and finding truth and where this person is at right now. And so this is a simple addition that you might bring when somebody's sharing big goals and dreams, is to ask a reality-based question that says, oh my gosh, I love that. That's a super cool goal. He wanted to achieve this goal in 6 weeks. 6 weeks, 10 new recruits, $40,000 new business in his organization. And I said, awesome. That sounds like a really big, exciting goal. Let me ask you a question. If you don't recruit any new people over the next 6 weeks, and you don't do anything differently to create more revenue, more sales in your business, if you just show up the way you've been showing up, how much business will you likely do in the next 6 weeks? And the answer to that question wasn't anywhere close to $40,000. The reality was, if nothing changed, I can't remember the exact number he said, it was something like $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 might be the amount of business that's done in the next 6 weeks. And that then led it to a conversation about previous months and what had the revenue been leading up to this month. And we can begin to see a pattern and recognize that the transformation from $2,000 or $3,000 months to $40,000 months is absolutely possible. And the timeline of that might need to be relaxed. And so I just had an honest conversation with him understanding after discovery a lot about his business and what he needed. And I'm very well versed in his industry. And so I was able to just have an honest conversation with him and say, wow, that's a really big goal in a really short period of time. That's a big jump to make. And just ask questions and get curious and investigate a little bit. How would he imagine doing this, et cetera, et cetera. And then even tell him that lovingly as possible, as I possibly can, that achieving that goal in the next 6 weeks doesn't sound very likely, doesn't sound very realistic. God can do anything, right? So it's possible. And if we were to work together, what I want to be clear about is like, I help people over a longer period of time pursue mastery. And I absolutely believe you can achieve that goal. I believe that it may take a longer timeline than you're currently imagining. And if you're open to that longer timeline, I'd love to be a coach who can help you with this. And I've got different ways I work with my clients, and some usually help people go faster than others. And some clients just show up in a way that help them go faster than others. Everybody's a little bit different on this. And I'd be happy to explore those things. But if you really are committed to achieving this goal in the next 6 weeks, I don't think I'm the right coach for you to achieve that goal in that timeline. The work that we would do together would probably be a distraction to you achieving that in the next 6 weeks because there's not enough time for us to really fulfill in a way to help you get to that level that quickly. Does that make sense? How does that land for you? And I'm able to just have an honest and real conversation with him. You know what he came back with? He said, that sounds right. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. And based on the way you're talking, I know I want to work with you. I'd like to start working with you in January. And that's after this 6 weeks. And by then, I think I'll be ready to decide between this and option and that option, et cetera. But by telling him the truth and by asking questions that help me see the truth and the reality of the situation with this prospect, I actually built a lot of trust and I built some authority and I created a greater desire to work with me by having less of an attachment to working with him now. And so I think what some coaches might do here is they might get sucked up in the story or get sucked up in the big, exciting goal and go straight in for the offer and be like, oh my gosh, I'd love to help you with this. Let's do this and this and this. And just, have maybe a blind faith, which I don't think is super helpful. I think oftentimes sets the coach and the prospect up for failure. And so to have the real, honest conversations with people, ask the real questions, give the honest, truthful feedback, talk about truth of timelines and talk about truth of goals. Similarly with a health and fitness coach, if a health and fitness coach gets on a call with somebody who says, I want to lose 30 pounds, and you say, awesome, that sounds amazing. How soon do you want to do it? And they're like, I want to lose 30 pounds in the next 2 weeks. The health and fitness coach probably needs to have an honest conversation. They probably need to ask some more questions, to understand whether or not somebody losing 30 pounds is even an appropriate goal. We probably have to ask people about, what's their weight at right now? And when was the last time they weighed that? And why do they want to lose the weight, right? There might be some people who it wouldn't be healthy for them to lose the 30 pounds. And so understanding the starting place of somebody in connection to the goal of where they want to go is really important. Asking the curious follow-up questions is really important. If somebody's like talking about the goals of their relationship or their marriage and what they want it to be like, it's so important for us to understand what it's like right now. If somebody is in a marriage coaching call and they're talking about their spouse and the problems with the spouse, and the spouse does this and this and this and this, to have the boldness and the courage to ask questions about what that person can own and find truth in their part in the relationship and where it's at right now can be super helpful. We want to listen. We want to accept and love and receive people. We want to create space and presence for people to share. And as a coach, you need to know when to challenge a little bit with a loving and curious question that brings a higher degree of truth forward. I hope this is helpful, and I hope the example makes sense to you. There's so many applications of this. Honestly, I could give 100 dramatically different questions and scenarios to work through on how to handle this kind of topic. But the intention is most important. Can you show up on the call with a desire to seek truth and put that even above your desire to make a sale? Because when we show up to seek truth, provide truth, have transparency and honest conversations, when we're bold and courageous enough to ask the bold question that tells us the full story and gives us a real picture of where someone's at and why they want what they want next and what the problems are that stand in the way. All of this discovery of truth and the bringing of truth into the presence reality on that call is a gift to you and your prospects, and it can build trust, and it can establish a coaching relationship, and it can begin the transformation process for people right then and there. Let's continue to seek truth on our sales calls. For more tips on how to do discovery well on a sales call, how to engage in vision and like the heart of the sales call like we're talking about here, once again, you can grab our free sales process at www.goodsalespdf.com. God bless you all. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.